let's cultivate our motivation by first remembering what a rare occasion it is to have the opportunity to listen to the Dharma. So, in this life, difficult to meet the Dharma. And even right now, how many people are able to listen to the Dharma this very moment? And how many people are distracted by the busyness of their lives or simply by hunger and thirst and trying to stay alive and be safe? And we look in all of samsara and think of all of our different rebirths, then we really get a feeling of how rare it is to have the chance to listen to the Dharma. And in that way we come to treasure the opportunity. And of course, when we treasure something, we pay better attention, we take it more seriously. So let's have that kind of serious and respectful approach to what we're doing today, as well as a motivation of compassion and bodhicitta, so that we place what we're doing within the field of contributing to the welfare of all beings, temporally in samsara, and also ultimately by gaining the realizations enabling us to lead them to full awakening. So take a moment and set that as your motivation for today, for our sharing the Dharma. Okay. Open your eyes and come out of your meditation.
Sometimes out doing so.
Okay, so we're going to be doing the text, the Wheel of Sharp Weapons, this weekend. And there's different ways to teach it. And I thought rather than give a detailed commentary, in which case we would probably only cover a few verses, that I would give a less detailed commentary. And we'll try, not promise, but try to read through the whole text, because it's very nice when you can read an entire text within a short period of time. It really gives you the feeling of what it's about. So although this won't be so detailed, hopefully it'll bring some other benefits to it. Yeah, I'm working on a book about this text, so hopefully that will explain things in a little bit more detail. But one never knows. Okay, so this is a text in the genre of Tibetan teachings called Lojong, or Thought Transformation. And I really love this type of text because it's very applicable to our daily life, and to really integrating these teachings right here and now and changing our mind. Yeah. And the thought training teachings specifically, they deal a lot with transforming adversity into the path to full awakening. And so, since adversity seems to come to us very easily, and problems come down like the autumn leaves are coming down right now, one after the other, then, how to transform this situation rather than be completely overwhelmed by it. So that's the beauty of these kinds of thought training texts. So this one, it's called the Wheel of Sharp Weapons, or some people translate it as the weapon wheel. And apparently there was a god, the god Indra, who had this wheel that he would use to throw out that, would destroy whatever was in its sight. If we were to place this into another context, we would call it the boomerang, okay? Because it talks a lot about karma. In other words, the actions we create bring the experiences that we have. The energy that we put out into the universe, boomerangs back to us, and we experience something similar to what we did. It's attributed to the master Dharmarakshita, although scholars are not sure if he's actually the one who wrote it, and there seems to be some ambiguity about his life, because there's one Vaibhasika master named Dharmarakshita, but the Vaibhasika is the lower tenant school, so that seems a little funny, because also this is a Mahayana text, which usually has different tenet systems supporting it. Some say he was a great Vinaya master, but very little really is known about Dharmarakshita. He appears to be one of the gurus of Atisha. Okay, and Atisha was the great sage who lived in the late 10th, early 11th century, who brought Buddhism to Tibet, in the second wave, the second transmission of teachings. Okay, so I'm reading from Geshe Thupten Jinpa's book, Mind Training. It was published by Wisdom Publications. It's part of his series of Tibetan classics. Yeah. And Jinpa particularly likes translating the thought training texts. And I particularly like reading them. So we get along quite well. Okay. So the text starts out, homage to the three jewels. So this is a typical beginning. You pay homage and make respect to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha before undertaking any enterprise. So Dharmarakshita is doing that. And then the text is called, this is the Wheel of Sharp Weapons, striking at the vital points of the enemy's body. Homage to the wrathful Yamantaka. Okay, so the Wheel of Sharp Weapons, striking at the vital points of the enemy's body. The enemy here is the self-grasping ignorance, and its cohort, the self-centered thought. Sometimes people translate self-centered thought as self-cherishing mind, but I think that's a misleading translation, because it makes it sound like we shouldn't cherish ourselves. But we should cherish ourselves. We're a sentient being. Yeah, we should cherish ourselves. What we shouldn't be is self-centered, selfish, self-preoccupied. Okay, so that's why I think calling it the self-preoccupation or self-centered thought is more accurate in terms of translation. So it strikes at the vital point of the self-grasping ignorance, the self-centered, and the self-centered thought. And then he says, homage to the wrathful Yamantaka. So Yamantaka is Dorje Jigje, or Vajra Bhairava, and it's one of the wrathful manifestations of the Buddha, and in particular a wrathful manifestation of Manjushri. And Manjushri is the peaceful manifestation of wisdom. Okay, so you might wonder, well, okay, wisdom is peaceful, and there's Manjushri, a deity manifesting or expressing in a physical form the wisdom aspect of a Buddha. Now, why in the world would that deity have a wrathful form, okay, or a fierce form, a very ferocious form? Well, I can see right now that, oh, thank you. You can keep it, no, because I can use one of the prayer sheets. Yeah, you take notes. Okay, so because, sometimes to get us on the right track, we need someone to go, pow. We need to be spoken to in a very strong way. Sometimes the nice, sweet, gentle, compassionate way doesn't get through to us. Whereas Yamantaka, is the wrathful manifestation with 9 heads and 16 arms and a gaping mouth and fangs and holding weapons, and you wouldn't want to bump into him in a dark alley if you thought he was an ordinary being. But he's not an ordinary being. Yeah, he's a manifestation of the Buddha's wisdom. So he's quite spectacular and conveys that wisdom, in a direct, no nonsense. We're not, messing around and playing sweetie here. Yeah, this is samsara is serious business. So we pay homage to Yamantaka. Okay, so the text starts out, when peacocks roam through the jungle of virulent poison, though the gardens of medicinal plants may be attractive, the peacock flocks will not take delight in them, for peacocks thrive on the essence of virulent poison. Likewise, when heroes enter the jungle of cyclic existence, though the gardens of happiness and prosperity may seem beautiful, the heroes will not become attached to them, for heroes thrive in the forest of suffering. Okay, so what this means is that peacocks, some birds, you have to feed them really nice food and they thrive on that, like crows. Yeah, crows, when I lived in India, they stole the fruit off of our altar, and, they like cookies and nice stuff like that. Peacocks, thrive on poisonous plants. Yeah, and the idea is that poison can also become medicine. And if we look, like penicillin actually is poisonous, if it's taken in great amounts. But in small amounts, it becomes medicinal. And so similarly with many other kinds of plants and medicines. So the peacocks can take these medicinal plants and not get killed by them, whereas crows, if they tried to eat them, will die. So in the same way, the Arya Bodhisattvas, who here are called heroes, when they can take the afflictions of anger and clinging and transform them into the path, they can live in our samsaric world where there are so many problems and so much mental disturbance through ignorance, anger, and attachment, and yet they aren't affected by them, and instead they work with compassion for the benefit of sentient beings. So the bodhisattvas are like the peacocks who can live in a jungle and live off medicinal plants. And we ordinary beings are like the crows who would die if we tried to do that. And we need cheesecake instead. And maybe a few other nourishing things. Okay, then verse 3, and I think sometimes the numbers of the verses in here may differ by 1 or 2, but you can try and follow. So verse 3, those who avidly pursue happiness and prosperity are brought to suffering due to their cowardice. The bodhisattvas who willingly embrace suffering always remain happy due to their heroism. So most of us, pursue happiness and prosperity. All day long, what we think about is me, I, my, and mine, and how can I be happy? And that can, it brings us to ruin, it brings us suffering, because we can't endure any kind of hardship. And so we're always involved in this struggle for happiness. And in order to get our happiness, if the situation is bad enough, we'll kill, we'll steal, unwise and unkind sexual behavior, we'll lie, we'll trash other people, we'll create disharmony, we'll gossip, we covet others' possessions, we meditate on how to get our revenge. We're full of wrong views. And so, because of our pursuit, our selfish, our self-centered pursuit of happiness and pleasure, we create so many negative actions and negative karma that wind up in the long term bringing us suffering. Okay? So the short term we may get pleasure, and the long term misery. But it's not even sure with our self-centered mind that we'll really get the pleasure we want, even short term. Yeah. Because how many times have we done all sorts of things thinking to get pleasure and haven't wound up with it? Yeah. Can you think of times when that's happened in your life? Yeah. I mean, one thing is, like, you may really want this promotion at work and work so hard to get this promotion so that you can earn more money and enjoy life. And then you have the privilege of working 12-hour days and not having any time to enjoy the rest of your life. Yeah? Or you cultivate a sexual relationship outside of your primary relationship, and you think, wow, this is great, this is going to bring me happiness. But then, of course, your spouse or your partner finds out about it, and then those few minutes of pleasure are gone, and you have a huge headache on your hands. Worse than a headache, actually, isn't it? Yeah? Yeah? Marital discord is worse than a headache. Is a mild thing of marital discord. It gets really much worse. Okay? Whereas if we can not just go along with this mind that says, I want pleasure, gimme, 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 and develop a little bit of bravery in our own mind to endure the hardship of not getting what our self-centered mind wants, then we'll wind up happier in the long term because we'll do more kind acts and we won't create so many harmful and destructive ones. Okay? So there's a guideline for making decisions that, let me pass on to you, that I think is really helpful. Because when we talk about karma, we're talking about the law of karma. We're talking about the long-term results of something. So results that may come in a future life based on the actions we did in a preceding life. So if an action is going to bring short-term pain and long-term misery, should we do it or not? No, it's bad news. If it's going to bring, what's an example of that? Something that brings short-term misery and long-term misery.
Really giving into your anger, maybe. So you're miserable because you're angry, and then you're also creating a karmic.
Yeah. Okay, so getting totally overwhelmed by your anger, you're miserable now, yeah, and you're miserable later, the karmic manifestations. And then if an action brings happiness now and happiness long term, then do you do it or not? Yes, you do it. What would be an example of that?
Practicing any form of kindness.
Yeah, practicing any form of kindness, or being generous, taking delight in generosity, being kind to others. That makes your own mind happy and peaceful now, and then it brings good results later. Okay. If an action brings temporary, immediate discomfort, but long-term benefit. Do you do it or not? Yeah, you do. Okay, even though there's initial discomfort or pain, it brings long-term benefit. What would be an example of that?
Exercise.
No, it has to be a karmic thing. Yeah, but I mean, exercise in our life is this life example. So, doing prostrations. Okay, so when you're doing a lot of prostrations, you may have some physical pain, but it's going to bring a lot of long-term benefit because you're purifying negativities. Okay, if an action brings a short-term benefit but long-term misery, do you do it or not? No. Well, we do. But we shouldn't if we knew what was good for us. So what would be an example of that? Short-term pleasure, long-term misery.
Giving into a strong craving.
Giving into a strong craving, or the example I gave before, having an extra, relationship affair. You get some pleasure now, but in future lives, a lot of headaches. And probably in this lifetime too. Okay? So verse 4. Now here, desire is like the jungle of virulent poisons. The peacock-like heroes alone can digest this, but for the crow-like cowards it spells death. For how can the self-centered digest such poison? When you extend this analogy to other afflictions, each similarly assails liberation's life force, like poison to a crow. So that's what I was saying before, that only the bodhisattvas can do this kind of practice of transforming afflictions into the path. And, ordinary beings would be stupid if we tried to do it, because we can't, we don't have a handle on our own afflictions. Okay, 5. Therefore, peacock-like heroes must convert afflictions that resemble a jungle of poison into an elixir and enter the jungle of cyclic existence. Embracing the afflictions, heroes must destroy their poison. Okay, so this is the whole idea of, taking something poisonous, like the afflictions, and destroying the poisonous part, but keeping the useful part. Okay, so in our afflictions can have a lot of energy. Yeah, when we have strong desires, strong anger, we don't fall asleep, do we? There's some energy in there. If we can purify the negative parts of that are based on self-grasping ignorance, and then use the energy in a good direction, we could really make good use of it. Okay, but the bodhisattvas are capable of doing that, and so they stay around in our world. Why the Arya bodhisattvas may not still be in samsara, they can live in our world, and they do so for our benefit, but they don't suffer in the same way that we do, because they have a handle on their afflictions and have started removing their afflictions from the root. 6. From now on, I will distance myself from this demon's emissary, self-grasping, which makes me wander helplessly and seeks only selfish happiness and prosperity. I will joyfully embrace hardship for the sake of others. Okay? Now, can we say that? I will joyfully embrace hardship for the sake of others. I don't even want hardship for my own sake. Yeah, this is what I was talking about last night. I should always have happiness without having to do anything. Okay, I don't want hardship even if it brings me happiness, let alone if it's going to bring others happiness. Okay, so here we see the difference between us and a bodhisattva, and the aspects of our present mental state that we want to apply the antidotes to and counteract so that we can become the great bodhisattvas. Yeah, so we want to do away with the self-grasping ignorance that holds there to be a true, inherently existent, concrete, existent me. And we want to do away with the selfish mind that says, my happiness is most important, more important than anybody else's, and my suffering also hurts more than anybody else's. Yeah, because that mind is skewed, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, if you had to prove why your own happiness is more important than anybody else's, what reason could you give that would hold up in, a court of reason? Yeah. My happiness is more important than anybody else's because it's mine. That's the only reason we can give. Is that reasonable? Yeah. Is anybody going to think that's a good reason? Yeah. It's like my idea is right because it's mine. It's stupid. Stupid. Whereas if we have the idea, others' happiness is more important because they're more numerous, that makes some sense, doesn't it? Especially those of us who believe in democracy. There's one of me and countless minus one of others. So whose happiness is more important? Others' happiness. Okay? That doesn't mean we neglect ourselves, but just rather when we're going through life, instead of always, having this incredible narrow periscope of me, I, my, and mine, which keeps us from viewing, all of reality, take down that periscope and see the experience of other living beings and care about them and do what we can to help them. Okay. 7, propelled by karma and habituated to the afflictions, the sufferings of all beings who share this nature, I will heap them upon this self that yearns for happiness. When selfish craving enters my heart, I will expel it and offer my happiness to all beings. If those around me rise in mutiny against me, I will relish it, thinking this is due to my own negligence. So these two verses here speak about the practice of taking and giving, or tonglen, which is something really, embedded in the thought training teachings. So the idea, as we've been talking, is that our own happiness is less important than the happiness of all other living beings. Okay, and so if we work for the happiness of all other living beings, and if we really treasure other living beings, then as a byproduct, we become very happy. Okay, it's like if there's somebody, think of somebody in your life that you really treasure, and you really care about. If you can do something to make that person happy, do you also feel happy witnessing them being happy? You do, don't you? So if we can develop that same kind of affection and care and compassion for other living beings, and then go about doing things that bring about their welfare, then we automatically become happy without having to, struggle so much to get me, I, my, and my happiness. Okay? So in this taking and giving meditation, it's based on seeing that the self-centered thought, our self-centered thought, not only damages others in the sense of makes us do actions that cause others pain, but it helps us to see that the self-centered thought, by harming others, also harms ourselves. Because when we harm others, in general, we are creating destructive karma. Then what is the cause of our own misery? Destructive karma. Okay? So it becomes quite clear when you think about it that benefiting others brings as a byproduct our own happiness. Harming others also harms ourselves. Okay, is this making some sense? Yeah? And you know, we can see this in terms of karma. If I harm somebody, I create the negative karma that results in my own suffering in future lives. But we can also see it in this lifetime. If we are rude and inconsiderate, other people are rude and inconsiderate back. Aren't they? If we trash somebody and want to ruin their reputation because we can't stand them, it creates so much turmoil in our group of friends or in our workplace, and you know, then other people blame us and we experience misery. Okay, so it, you know, it happens kind of readily. I think our parents tried to teach us this when we were in preschool, and the preschool version was don't throw sand at others because they'll throw sand back at you. Yeah. Don't throw rocks at others because others will throw rocks back at you. I mean, this is what our parents were trying to teach us then. We may have abandoned throwing sand and rocks, but as adults we now launch bombs, which are worse, right? I mean, I really think sometimes they should get the leaders of countries into a sandbox and let them fight it out and leave the rest of us alone. You know, because you throw bombs, you get bombs. Yeah, you're mean to people, they treat you the same way. So the taking and giving meditation is based on this understanding. And what it does is, out of compassion, we cultivate the mind that wants to take on others' suffering. And then out of love, we cultivate love, the mind that wants to give our happiness to others. So what we visualize is we can start with one individual or many individuals who are experiencing some form of suffering, and with an attitude of compassion, wishing them to be free from that, we imagine their suffering leaving them in the form of pollution, which we then inhale. As we inhale, it becomes like a thunderbolt. And at our heart, you know, we imagine this dark lump of our own self-centeredness and self-grasping. And so as the suffering leaves others and we inhale it, it becomes this thunderbolt that crashes down at the lump of our own self-grasping and self-centeredness and totally demolishes it. So when we take on the suffering, when we imagine taking on the suffering of others, it isn't that we take it on and then we sit there and now, oh, I'm so miserable. I took on that person's cancer, and I took on this person's kidney disease, and I took on this person's depression. And, you know, it's not that you sit there and, you know, and hold all of that, but you use it, you transform it to destroy the source of your own misery, which is our own self-centered thought and our own self-grasping ignorance. So we take what others don't want, their suffering, and use it to destroy what we don't want, our self-centered mind and self-grasping ignorance. Okay, so that's the taking part. Then with the giving part, after the taking part, you know, with our own, you know, defilements smashed, then our heart is completely wide open. Yeah, and so you stay in that wide open space. Yeah, with a completely clean, clear heart. And then, after a while, you imagine a light in that space, and that light is the light of your love, okay, for others. Love being the wish that they have happiness and its causes. And then you imagine, you know, radiating out light to other living beings and transforming your body into whatever other living beings need. So if somebody needs a doctor, or they need a friend, or they need a neighbor, or whatever, they need a pet dog, you transform into whatever it is they need. You imagine you're giving all your wealth away and it transforming again into whatever other people need, what they want. And then we also give away our merit, our spiritual wealth, dedicating it to others, so that they may have all the conducive conditions for practicing the Dharma. Okay, so giving our body enjoyments, possessions, and virtue, and it becoming what others need and want. And we imagine that they receive it, and they're fully satisfied, here and now. But then they also have all the conducive conditions to practice the Dharma. They practice it and they attain full awakening. So then they're completely liberated from all misery. Okay? So that's, what this text is about, is taking on the suffering of others, giving them our happiness. Okay? And only the brave can do this, because as long as we're sitting there, me, we can't really do this. So we do the taking and giving meditation, which is based on an imagination as a way of kind of practicing it with our imagination. But then, we try in our daily life with small steps to loosen the grasp of this self-centeredness and really extend ourselves in ways that can be highly beneficial to other living beings. Okay. Now we're okay. And then this verse, the last two lines said, "If those around me arise in mutiny against me, I will relish it, thinking this is due to my own negligence." So usually if people rise in mutiny against us, the people that we work with or the people in our family, they turn against us, how do we react? My trust has been betrayed. They rejected me. They abandoned me. What did I do to deserve this? Poor me. I want to harm them so that then they know how bad I feel. Right? Some version of that or another. Okay? But here, when that happens, instead of our usual pattern, I will relish it. I will say, oh, good. Oh, good. People are betraying my trust. People aren't doing what I want them to do. They aren't fulfilling my expectations. This is good. Why in the world would it be good? Okay. Well, one of the reasons is we think this is due to my own negligence. So my own negligence in observing the law of karma and its effects. Okay, so because of being negligent, because I've created many negative deeds earlier in this life and previous lives, the pain I'm experiencing now because the people I care about have arisen in mutiny against me, this is basically due to my own negative actions. So I'm just experiencing the result of my own negative actions. There's no reason to feel sorry for myself. There's no reason to blame others. And in fact, the great bodhisattvas who we're trying to emulate welcome such an experience because they say, due to experiencing this suffering now, all that negative karma that I created is getting consumed. It's ripening as this, which means it can't ripen as something worse later on. Okay, so this karma's finishing, and isn't that great? Yeah, it could have ripened in maybe a hellish rebirth or something really bad, but it's not. It's ripening now in some disturbance in this life, and compared to a hellish rebirth, the unhappiness of this life is not so bad and I can actually manage it. Yeah? Can you think that way? Oh, poor me. My little toe hurt. Who cares about the hell beings? My little toe is more important than anything else. You know? That's kind of the way we are. So we need to develop some kind of compassion, yeah, for others and some ability to endure hardships. Okay, for the sake of the Dharma. Okay, so we think it's due to my, this is due to my negligence, and that's fine. It's good that this is happening. Okay, verse 9. So now we start a whole bunch of, a chunk of the text, where it talks very easily of problems that we have, and the kind of karma that we have created, the kind of action we did in a previous time that created the cause for our present suffering. Okay, so this is very, very useful because it helps us, when we're miserable, to endure that misery, and to rejoice that it's the negative karma ripening, and, since that karma is ripening, it's finished. Yeah. And I now have the opportunity to develop more compassion through enduring suffering. Yeah, because suffering, we don't go out looking for it. It comes automatically by itself. But through it, we can create much more compassion. Yeah, don't you think? Yeah, when you're miserable, do you have more compassion for others who later have that same problem? We do. Yeah, and when we're miserable, also, we create more renunciation. We want to be free of cyclic existence. We don't want to be so attached to this body and so overwhelmed by our afflictions. Okay, so verse 9. When my body falls prey to unbearable illnesses, it is the weapon of evil karma returning on me, or the wheel of sharp weapons returning upon me, for injuring the bodies of others. From now on, I will take all sickness upon myself. So this is the verse that really transformed my Dharma practice. I met the Dharma in 75, went to, in the U.S., and then I went to Kopan. And I was living at Kopan, and in 1976, in the springtime, I got Hep A. Okay? So, Hep A comes through people not washing the fruits and vegetables properly. And I was really, really knocked out. I mean, it was like to move just took incredible energy. I got to the homeopathic doctor in Kathmandu, and then to get back up to Kopan, I couldn't walk up the hill. It isn't like Kopan nowadays with gazillions of taxis driving you up. And so one of my friends carried me on his back because, that's how weak I was. So it's very tempting when you're that sick to blame the cook, and blame the people in the kitchen who didn't wash the fruits and vegetables well enough. So I'm lying in my room just knocked out. And somebody comes and gives me this book, this original translation of the book. So I had enough energy to turn the pages, thank goodness. And I came to this verse, and it was like, oh, why am I sick? For injuring the bodies of others. That's why I'm sick. It's not the fault of the kitchen, that was just the kind of cooperative condition. The real reason, I am sick from HEP is because of my own negative actions. So no sense getting angry. And actually it's interesting, when you have HEP, you tend to get quite angry because liver is associated with the defilement of anger. And you really do tend to get very angry, you know, in spite of being weak. Yeah, whatever little energy you have, you consume it in anger. So it just made me say, well, wait a minute, no, that's not what's going on. You know, it's nobody else's fault. I have to experience this. Yeah, and from now on, I will take all sickness upon myself. In other words, I'll do the taking and giving meditation, taking others' sickness, you know, taking the negative karma they created for that brought on their sickness. Imagine inhaling it, it becomes that thunderbolt. It strikes at the lump in the center of my own heart, of my own self-centeredness and self-grasping ego, self-grasping ignorance, totally destroys it, you know, and then with the light of love, giving my body, possessions, and virtue to all other living beings. Okay? So I lay there doing this meditation, and that was what kept me going during that time of illness. And it really changed my practice, because before that, I had of course studied about karma, and I thought, oh, I really should practice Dharma. I really should change my mind. I really should abandon non-virtue and create virtue. But you know, should and actually doing something are two different ball games, aren't they? But when I read this verse and I really started contemplating it, it became very clear, you know, not I should practice Dharma, I want to practice Dharma. Okay? Yeah. I want to abandon these afflictions. And if there's some discomfort involved, so be it. You know, because it's for the long-term benefit of myself and all other living beings. When my mind falls prey to suffering, it is the wheel of sharp weapons turning upon me, for definitely causing turbulence in the hearts of others. From now on, I will take all suffering upon myself. So has your mind ever fallen prey to suffering? Lots. Do you have more physical suffering or mental suffering in your life? Yeah, most people in this country have more mental suffering. Yeah. Sometimes there's more physical, but even the physical suffering becomes really painful due to the mind. Yeah. So our mind very easily, we're so ego-sensitive, our mind gets upset and falls into a state of suffering so easily. You know, people don't treat us the right way, they don't say hello to us, they don't smile at us. You know, small, teeny things. Yeah, and we get upset, and you know, they don't like me, and what are they thinking about me? And our mind makes up this whole story about it's because I'm such a bad person, and they're doing this deliberately, and blah, blah, blah. Okay? And none of it's true. But, you know, our mind suffers anyway. So what does this do to? It's the wheel of sharp weapons. It's the boomerang coming back on us for causing disturbance to the hearts of others. Okay, anybody here who's never hurt somebody else's feelings? Deliberately? Sometimes we hurt people's feelings accidentally. That's not counting here. Okay? Have you at some time or another deliberately hurt somebody else's feelings? You were mad. Yeah, you were hurt yourself. You felt betrayed or you felt neglected. And so we do something that we know is going to hurt somebody else's feelings. And it's usually the feelings of the people we care the most about. I mean, we don't expend that much energy hurting the feelings of others. Yeah, some people do. You know, people who are very biased and prejudiced might do that. But generally, it's, you know, we hurt the people of the feelings of the people we care the most about. Okay, we've all done it. why do we expect to never have mental suffering then? If we've all created the causes for mental suffering, why do we think that we shouldn't have any? Why are we surprised when it comes? You know, it's like you plant daisy seeds. Are you surprised when the daisies grow? No, because you know you planted the seeds. So similarly, you know, when we cause turbulence in others' mind, why are we surprised when, you know, others do things that hurts our feelings? Yeah? So let's learn from this situation. We do the taking and giving meditation, and we learn from this situation by thinking, from now on, I will take all suffering upon myself. Okay? So instead of having the mind that says, if it's good, I'll have it. If it's bad, you can take it. If it's happiness, I'll have it. If it's suffering, I'll offer that to you. And, you know, rather than have that kind of mind, then we just say, okay, if there's suffering, I'll take it on. Yeah. And so we do the taking and giving meditation. Or in our daily life, if there's garbage to take out, I'll take it out instead of waiting for somebody else to take it out. If there's dishes to do, even if it's somebody else's dishes, I'll do them, rather than sit and complain that somebody else didn't do their dishes. Okay? So, you know, in other words, I'm going to extend myself to others. I'm going to break out of this little cocoon I have that says, I'm only going to do what I feel like doing when I feel like doing it. And I'm going to look at, you know, what needs to be done in this world and what I'm capable of doing. And instead of just being lazy, I'm going to step out and do what I can to benefit others. Okay? It doesn't mean we all become Mother Teresa tomorrow. You know, we have to do things according to our capabilities and so on. Yeah, but at least we can start going in that direction and then gradually increase it. 11. When I am tormented by extreme hunger and thirst, it is the wheel of sharp weapons turning upon me for engaging in deception, theft, and miserly acts. From now on, I will take all hunger and thirst upon myself. So we've all been hungry and thirsty at some point. Probably never real severe hunger and thirst like a lot of people experience, but still what we've experienced is not pleasant. So again, this is the boomerang effect of what we've done. What have we done? Engaged in deception. So we've cheated, we've lied, we've deceived people. Theft, we've stolen goods. Yeah, stealing is the cause to lack possessions. The karmic cause, you know. Stealing in this life seems to be the cause to have possessions. But it's the karmic cause to be poor. Okay? And miserliness. Miserliness is also the cause of poverty. Okay? So then it forces us, well, you know, when have I been deceptive and cheated people and not given them their fair share of something? Now, we need to do some introspection. Yeah? When have we stolen things? Okay, now we may not have broken into somebody else's house, but maybe we used the property of the company that we work for our own personal purposes. That's stealing. Not paying taxes we're supposed to pay, or fees, or, you know, all sorts of things like that. That's stealing. Yeah. And how about miserliness? Yeah. When we're able to give, do we give? Or does our mind go, well, if I give, then I won't have? Okay. So I'm not talking about, you know, even when giving would cause us suffering. I'm talking about even we have something to give, you know, and giving it would not cause us immense suffering. But our mind goes, but if I give it, I won't have it. I better save it for myself. Yeah. If I give this, then I won't be able to go on vacation. I won't be able to get, my 20th pair of shoes for 2 feet, And so we refrain from giving, So that again is the cause of poverty. Okay, so we do the taking and giving meditation, again, taking on the hunger and thirst of others, taking on the poverty of others, giving them our body, possessions, and merit. And then we also think, as it says here, from now on I will take all hunger and thirst upon myself. Okay? So instead of being greedy and, storing food or wasting food, throwing something out that is actually good food simply because we don't feel like eating it. If something's going to make you sick, it's one thing. But if it's, I don't feel like eating this, so we throw it out and then go get something we like. Or we have leftover food, instead of saving it, eating it the next day, we toss it. Yeah, wasting a lot of food. When even people in our own country are hungry. Yeah, we could very easily take a little bit of food to the food bank. You may not be able to take a lot, but just think if each one of us took a can of peas to the food bank, that would be a lot of families that would have a can of peas. And we're not going to suffer tremendously from the lack of one can of peas, are we? Or one loaf of bread, or, whatever it is. Okay. 12. When I am powerless and suffer in servitude to others, it is the wheel of sharp weapons returning upon me, for being hostile to the weak and subjugating them. From now on, I will employ my body and life in the service of others. Okay, so when I'm powerless and suffer in the servitude of others, okay, so of course that would include slavery, which still exists in our world, sexual trafficking, where people basically become sex slaves, or just simply being powerless. You work in a company and you're powerless. You see something going on that you want to help with, nobody listens to you. Yeah. Or, during the government shutdown, I don't know about you, but I felt totally powerless. Did you feel powerless? It was like this. There was this whole thing going on that was on the verge of making a big mess with the debt ceiling limit and all this, and there was absolutely nothing I could do. Of course, I can vote for somebody different in the future, but at this moment. Okay, so what does this do to? Being hostile to the weak and subjugating them. So have we ever done that? Yeah. How do we treat children? Yeah. I'm not talking about pampering children, but do we treat them with respect, or do we ridicule them and make fun of them and tease them and make them afraid of the boogeyman? Yeah. So that would be some kind of example of it. Or subjugating other people. Maybe we're the boss in the company and we really rule with a what do you call it, a hard thumb? What?
Iron fist.
With an iron fist, yeah? And not listening to other people's ideas. Somebody needs time off for a family crisis and you don't give it, or something like that. So some kind of action of not respecting others. Now, it's very important when we read these verses. Yeah, it would be easy to say, because here it says, when I'm powerless and suffer in servitude. Then we look and we say, oh, well, that means when other people are powerless and suffer in servitude. It means those teenage girls who have been turned into sex slaves, they deserve that. Because in the past they were hostile to the weak and subjugated others, so they're just getting the results of their own negative karma, and I should just let that go, because otherwise I would be interfering with the ripening of their karma. Yeah, similar to in the previous verse, somebody could say, "Oh, hunger and thirst. Well, that's the result. Previous life, all those people, the refugees in Syria who are hungry. Well, they just, were miserly in a previous life, so they deserve being hungry now, and I won't do anything, and because then I'm interfering with their karma." This is a wrong understanding. Okay, first of all, it doesn't mean anybody deserves to suffer. Nobody deserves to suffer. Suffering simply comes as a result of the kind of action we did. It's not a punishment. Nobody deserves it. Second of all, just because somebody's suffering as the result of their own negative karma, it does not mean that we just sit around and let them suffer and don't help. Yeah. Of course, somebody else is suffering. With compassion, we reach out and help. That's the natural human thing to do. If we don't reach out and help, then, and we do have the ability to help, yeah, then we ourselves are creating some kind of karma to not be helped when we're in misery. Okay? So an extreme example would be somebody gets hit by a car and is lying there bleeding, and you go, "Oh, well, that's the result of your own negative karma. Too bad that happened." And, you're consuming all this negative karma by being injured, and I'm not going to help you because then I'll be interfering with your ability to exhaust that negative karma. Yeah. Stupid. Yeah. This is a total misunderstanding of karma. Yeah. Obviously, clearly, we should step in and help to the extent that we're able to. Okay? And we should never blame people who are suffering, saying, "Oh, well, that's the result of your karma." Why shouldn't we blame them? Because how would we feel when we're miserable if somebody blames us? You're unhappy, mentally unhappy, like in this previous verse, and somebody comes up and goes, "Oh, that's really too bad. That's because you hurt other people's feelings before, so just go ahead and feel depressed." Okay, we can't do that kind of thing. 13, when unpleasant words reach my ears, it is the wheel of evil karma returning upon me, the wheel of sharp weapons returning upon me, for my verbal offenses, such as divisive speech. From now on, I will condemn flawed speech. Okay, so unpleasant words, criticism. Yeah, somebody trashing us. We hear that somebody's bad-mouthing us behind our back. Somebody in front of a whole group of people displays our faults and tells them our mistakes. Yeah, we hate being criticized, don't we? Yeah, we get so offended and upset, and angry at the other person. But instead of getting angry, think, this is it's the wheel of sharp weapons returning upon me for my verbal offenses, such as divisive speech. So I've lied to others, I've created disharmony with my speech, I've badmouthed others and trashed their reputation, I've turned friends against each other, I've prevented people from reconciling. Yeah. So I have to accept that this is a result of all my bad speech. And from now on, I will condemn flawed speech. That doesn't mean I condemn the speech of other people who are criticizing me. Don't you criticizing me, you're creating bad karma. That's the selfish mind, isn't it? Yeah. We're condemning our own bad speech. No, I won't criticize others because I'm creating the cause to receive harsh words myself. Okay. When you think about it, do you receive more harsh words and criticism than you give? One person says yes, some people say no. Okay, take a day, an average day. How often can you go one day without saying something nasty about somebody else? Yeah? Even thinking it, or even, forget thinking, even coming out of our mouth. You know, we make nasty comments about other people very frequently throughout the day. Oh, you'll never guess what happened at work today. You know, my colleague, the idiot, did da-da-da-da-da. Oh, you'll never guess what happened to me at the gas station. You know, somebody cut in front of me and got to the pump instead because he thought he was more important than me. I mean, we kind of complain about even these minor things. We criticize other people. Every day, don't we? Yeah? Do you get criticized every day? No. Yeah. Oh, she's special.
No.
Sometimes I like look for ways that I was criticized. Oh, I know that.
I know, they're so mean to me. Every single day somebody trashes me. Oh. You know? But if you think about it, we don't get criticized every day, but we usually make some nasty comment about somebody else every day. So why are we so surprised when we get criticized? Yeah. 14, when I am born in a place of impurity, it is the wheel of sharp weapons turning upon me, for always cultivating impure perceptions. From now on, I will cultivate only pure perceptions. So when we're born in a dirty, kind of disgusting place, it's due to our own karma, because we always regard things in a negative light. Yeah? Instead of respecting bodhisattvas, we look at them as ordinary beings. Instead of giving people the benefit of the doubt and seeing their kindness, we pick flaws. Okay? So from now on, instead of doing this, I will cultivate pure perception. I will focus, I will train my mind on seeing other people's good qualities. I will train my mind to see the kindness of others and everything I receive due to others' kindness. Yeah. And again, if you think about it, yeah, every day we receive the kindness of others. Every time we open our mouth and eat something, it's due to the kindness of others. Who grew the food, who transported it, who sold it to us, who prepared it. Okay? So every day, every bite of food is a result of the kindness of others. So all the time receiving the kindness of others. Yeah. And actually, comparatively little time spent receiving their unkindness. But what do we look at? What do we remember? The unkindness. Okay? Again, it's like the example of you have a whole pink wall and there is one purple dot on it, and you focus on the purple dot. Okay? You've just painted your room pink, and there's one purple dot, and it's like, oh, this wall is terrible. Or you're building a wall and there's one brick that's out of place. Instead of saying, wow, look at all the bricks that are in place, we focus on the one that's out of place. Okay? So to train our mind to see the good things in our lives. 15, when I become separated from helpful and loving friends, it is the wheel of sharp weapons returning upon me, for luring away others' companions. From now on, I will never estrange others from their companions. Okay, when I become separated from helpful and loving friends, friends are important to us. Yeah? Companions, people we care about, are important to us. When we're separated from them, yeah, either because we live in different places, because somebody dies early, or most importantly, because we cease to get along and we're quarreling, Yeah? What is this a result of? We've lured away others' companions. Lured, we've enticed. You know what entice means? You've kind of convinced somebody to come along with you. Yeah, lured. So, you know, we do this. I mean, this you could look at this verse and read this in divorce court. Yeah? When you become separated from loving, helpful and loving friends, when your marriage breaks up. Okay, what's it due to? Luring away others' companions. Yeah? So in a previous life, you know, we didn't keep our marriage vows well. We lured away others' spouses and so on. Yeah? And so now our own marriage is falling apart. Makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah? I mean, even in this life, kind of, you cheat on your spouse, and then your spouse gets fed up and says, "Get out of here." Duh. It's like, you know, well, I created the principal cause by what I did. Once I was in Dharamsala with some friends listening to His Holiness's teachings, and he was talking about karma, and he was explaining in the 10 destructive pathways of destructive actions, the third one about unwise and unkind sexual behavior. And it chiefly means adultery, although it could mean any kind of unwise or unkind sexual expression. And we were leaving after His Holiness was giving this teaching, and my friend commented to me and she said, "Oh, now I know why my relationships don't seem to work out. You know, this is what I must have done in previous lives." Yeah, because he had had various boyfriends and, you know, the relationships never kind of worked out. Okay, so I've lured away others' companions. From now on, I will never estrange others from their companions. So from now on, I won't break up others' friendships. You know? And aside from marital relationships, you know, even a regular friend, we may be jealous if they're friendly with somebody else. We may want to turn one person against the other so that they'll think we'll be more important in their life. So instead of creating disharmony amongst other people, you know, we will stop that kind of behavior, and instead we'll really try and help people who are reconciled. Yeah. So in our family, yeah, rather than creating disharmony between brothers and sisters or between one of our parents and one of our siblings because we're jealous or we feel neglected or who knows what, we will, you know, use our speech to create harmony in a family. That's really important because so often, you know, how we tell somebody is upset about something. They come to us and they vent and they need to talk, and we help them talk and they kind of process it. And then we go to the person that they were upset with and said, "Oh, do you know what? You know, so-and-so is really upset with you." What happens then? Yeah. When somebody comes to you and tells you that a friend is upset with you, how do you feel? We feel bad. We feel wronged. We feel angry. Yeah, why is my friend upset with me? What did I do? Yeah. So in the same way, if somebody confides in us, and then we go tell somebody with the motivation to separate these two people, yeah, not because you care about the people and you think that they ought to know so that they can reconcile, but because you really want to separate them, yeah, because some people like controversy. They like this kind of stuff. You know, it gives them a feeling of power in a very perverted way. Then, you know, we're just creating the cause for our own relationships to fall apart.